The compliment is not really to me, it's the compliment to the concept and the character. Hello everybody, this is Amitabh Bachchan and I'm privileged to have Nagi Ashwin here, the director of Kalki.
Full privilege.
And it's 8 o'clock in the morning here in Mumbai. And I've just come back at about 3 in the morning after seeing Kalki for the third time. And just cannot explain the wonder and the experience that all my friends, we watched the film again. And so I thought that there are many aspects of the film, Nagi, which a lot of people put questions to. And in my mind also, there is a lot that comes to me when I think about Kalki. Explain not just to me, but to the audience in general, how you thought of. When we spoke to Priyanka and Sapna, they said, after the last film, they waited and asked you what you're going to do next, and you said, I don't know. And almost after a year or so, you went to them and said, I have something. And after that, Priyanka was saying that after hearing it, I couldn't sleep for a couple of days. And then she rang up Sapna and said, we have to start getting to work on this. So, what went through your mind and how did you conceive this?
To be very honest, sir, I thought this story would be probably one of the last films I'll ever make. Like, I thought this would be my retirement film. But
and we won't let you do that.
Yeah. And I had like a smaller story, maybe something that was not as ambitious as this, that I wanted to start off with. And somewhere along the way, like those few months after Mahanati, I was coming across either articles or like some sort of videos about the Chiranjeevis or about some sort of a Mahabharata connect. And I was even seeing some articles where I was seeing that maybe some production houses in Bollywood were starting to think about Mahabharata or Ramayana and all of that at that time. And I had this story, I had a germ of this story already by then. And I was like, okay, so maybe it's time to bring this out of hibernation. And I took it out and I started living with it for a few weeks, and I realized that the energy that it would probably require to bring this to life and to bring it in front of people was something that I probably had now. And I don't think, to be honest, me, Swapna or Priyanka fully knew what we were getting into when we had that first narration.
That's what they also said, they suddenly realized, oh my God, we need to start working on this now if this concept and this dream has to fructify.
Yeah, we started with one concept artist and we thought, we'll conceptualize the main sequences of the film. But as we kept going deeper into that rabbit hole, so to speak, we realized every single thing had to be conceptualized and every single thing had to be built, and we suddenly we realized it needed an army.
Yeah. You showed me a photograph of Ashwatthama who has aged and is now
fighting Bhairava. Yeah.
Fighting Bhairava. And for someone to have had that kind of a visual in mind and then to be told about the title, Kalki, and 2898 AD, and I couldn't understand that. So maybe you could explain for the benefit of the audience.
Core of the story was the first scene in a way. So 6,000 years after the death of Krishna.
Which is what comes in the subtitle.
Yeah. So
6,000 years have passed ever since Krishna gave the shrap to
Ashwatthama. Yeah. So 6,000 years after when Krishna is said to have left his body was 3,102 BC. So to speak. So exactly that would lead up to 2898. The story of Ashwatthama happens after the 18 days of the Kurukshetra.
Yeah.
It happens at the very end, like after the victory, after everything. This is probably
18 days of the war for Kurukshetra.
Yeah. After the 18 days of the war, this is the last thing that happens in the Mahabharata, so to speak. The most important confrontation between the Pandavas and the last Kaurava, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I felt that this was the ending of this story, sort of, but it's also the beginning of another story.
Yes.
And it doesn't finish. Like, I feel it's not finished. We just, even in the Mahabharata, for what I have read, it just is like Ashwadama is cursed and he walks into the woods. Like, he leaves Krishna and Bhima and everybody aside and he walks into the woods. We don't know what happened to him. So that's like a starting of a story. Now I wanted to know, like, if this man is cursed and he has been witnessing this entire Kali Yuga, like, that's the most interesting thought process, like, because he is this ultimate warrior, but he's not interfering in the events of the Kali Yuga because he has a larger purpose. So I felt that it was audacious in a way for me to attempt to think that I'm finishing something that was left in the Mahabharata, but I was like, nobody's done it yet, so let's give it a shot.
Yes. But why did you think like this, that I want to know what happened after that? Because in a sense, the Mahabharata ended at the end of the war after 18 days. Krishna gives disgust to Ashwatthama, end of matter.
Yeah.
But you said you thought, okay, what happened after that?
I really loved this dialogue in that first scene, sir. What we did, like, after Ashwadama says, kill me now, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And then Krishna says, no, death is not a punishment. And then we have a wide shot of this battlefield with hundreds and thousands of people who are dead.
Yes.
And that, for me, even when I was writing it, that just felt like it had a deeper meaning. It feels like, Mahabharata has killed millions of people, but Krishna right now is standing there and saying, death is not your punishment, having to live is your punishment. That just meant, like, maybe there is a whole karmic level to this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for Ashwadama also, I felt that anger, like, though he was very cruel in that particular moment, that anger was justified because he just felt that his father was killed very unjustly. And his father was a great warrior and he was killed in the most unjust way. So his anger was justified in his own way. So now his redemption is also very justified. But we never know if that redemption ever comes, because it's not like Ashwadama is always been evil or something like that. He's actually a very noble warrior. He's meant to be an avatar of Shiva. People say, like, Drona prayed to Shiva to get a rupam of Shiva as his child, and that's how Ashwadama was born. There's a beautiful, beautiful couple of pages in the Mahabharata that shows before Ashwadama enters the Pandava camp to massacre the rest of the Pandava army. He sort of, Krishna had put out a barrier. He had put out, like, his magic in a way. He's put, like, the biggest celestial guardians around the camp, and he went back to the kingdom. And Ashwa came and he realized he can't cross those celestial guardians. And for that one time, he became like a Rudra Roop, like he became Shiva. He entered one pyre and he came out like Shiva. And there's Kripacharya watching this and he became so scared, like he actually ran away from that scene because Ashwadama was so terrible and so magnificent. So that character always intrigued me. Like, you can't have an avatar of Shiva who is the greatest, is the son of the greatest warrior, and not know how his story ended.
So that was the point of evolution of the idea and thought of how to continue with this.
Yeah. And he wasn't also like the most popular Mahabharata character, because from what we've usually exposed to in serials or books or anything, we know about the main ones. We rarely know much about Ashwadama, but I feel he was multiple times capable of destroying the Pandava army if not for Krishna. Like there were astras that only he could use and only Krishna knew how to stop them.
After 6,000 years.
Yeah.
You hear the words of Krishna saying, that when there is no water in the Ganges. And these were all very symbolic but very pertinent little things that kept coming up. How did you conceive that the futuristic world 6,000 years from now is going to be looking like this?
There were a lot of things that we try to extrapolate, sir. Like, for example, there is massive drought now. There is clean air is already such a problem in so many places in China or even Delhi, for that matter. That buying air is going to become a common thing. It's actually become a common thing already. And the fact that physical currency is not going to exist has already happened. So a lot of things that when we started writing we thought were very futuristic have already happened by the time the film released. And we had to just try to understand that if there is no water and the biggest problem is fertility, I feel, like of man and of the soil. Like, those are the two biggest things that will change the world. If human beings suddenly become infertile to a certain level, we just have barely 100 years before we go extinct, in a way. And if the soil stops being kind to us and it becomes dead in a way, then how much synthetic food are you going to develop, and how will that society be that lives only on synthetic food? So those are the two big things we tried to explore, though we didn't have time to really get into the details of it, but that was the thought process.
During the portion when they were designing all this, were there any questions that ever arose in your mind?
Multiple, sir. There were